Honestly guys, I can think of no other way of starting this review without showing this. Yep, I guess you could say School Reunion is K9 and Company done much better. Alright, in all seriousness, School Reunion is actually known for the return of Sarah Jane Smith and K9, two classic Who companions making their return in the modern era. And honestly, that is what everyone talks about when discussing this story, so I'm going to try and see if there's anything aside from that to admire about this story. School Reunion starts off with the Doctor becoming a science teacher at the Deathly Hale High School, which turns out to be a cover-up of investigating strange hauntings by strange bat-like creatures at night known as the Krillitanes. While investigating the odd goings-ons, the Doctor finds an old friend from the past, Sarah Jane Smith, played by the late great Elizabeth Sladen, already working undercover, along with her little robotic dog K9, voiced by John Lessons. This might have caused a few reactions towards Rose in a sort of jealous type way, but that needs to be overwritten since it turns out the Krillitanes are using the school children's minds to crack open a secret code to become gods. We'll talk about the main reason this episode is remembered in a second, but I'd like to discuss the story and villains first. For the most part, the story is actually pretty nice. Similar to some of the stories in Season 1, I like seeing aliens coming to Earth not to invade or conquer, but for their own needs. Like the Krillitanes for example. I love the idea of aliens using school kids to crack open codes. I didn't realize it at the time, but apparently they wanted to become gods, or even make themselves their own lords of time, which does affect the Doctor since he is the last of the Time Lords, so he would have the opportunity to control time himself, like bring Gallifrey back. But even the Doctor, and even some cases Sarah Jane, knows he cannot do that. Everything has a purpose, and everything has its time, and everything has its end. I also like how it ties into the Doctor's relationship with Rose, how the Doctor does not age but regenerate, while Rose would just age and die old. Married life was just not meant to be for the Time Lord. Also, I love seeing the Doctor going undercover as a science teacher whilst Rose is undercover as a dinner lady. I like scenarios where you get the main characters to go undercover in normal jobs. Kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. It's kind of funny how in Series 2 we've gone from cats to wolves to bats. Yes, the CG on the Krillitanes themselves have aged badly in the daylight scenes, but I do think they work effectively well at night. And yes, Anthony Head rocks as the Demon Headmaster. Yeah, there are a lot of laughably shot scenes, but there is a reason why this character has been brought back in other multimedia Doctor Who projects. I like how it's their own oil being placed into the chips, which is actually used to make the children's intelligence grow higher, but at the same time it's also an allergy, a poison to the Krillitanes. I do kind of wish their transformations were done a little more creatively. I always imagine from that quick edit in the classroom scene, or even through the distorted window imagery, that they just simply rip out of their human skins and sprout out wings. Instead, it's just a generic smoke effect, which is fine, but it's still a little cheap. But that doesn't matter because Maury Gold's music throughout their scenes is intense. It gives me such a chilling, spine-tingling vibe in the room. I also appreciate how the episode ends with the little people saving the day, whether it's this schoolboy Kenny who managed to distract the Krillitanes, or Mickey Smith using the car to break into the school and free the kids, as well as a robot dog saving the day by sacrificing its life to destroy the Krillitanes. It's a nice continuation from the running element in Season 1. And now, let's talk about Elizabeth Sladen and John Lessons reprising their roles as Sarah Jane Smith and K9. Again, I did not know much about the characters since I never actually saw any of the classic seasons at the time, but even then, I liked the idea of an old friend of the Doctor's past returning to see how things have changed for them both, as well as getting an idea of what their lives were together. We do get some cute and funny moments between the old and new companions. It's almost like someone passing the torch to the newcomer, or someone giving tips and advice on what life in this environment is like, telling them what to do and what not to do. But I will admit I did find Rose's kind of jealousy towards Sarah Jane being an old companion to be a little selfish, even for Rose. I wasn't really a fan of this scenario being treated like a love ship triangle between the Doctor and his companions, although I did find Mickey Smith's reaction to the Mrs. and the X situation to be a little amusing. It's almost like he's treating it as a sort of payback to Rose for leaving him behind in Season 1. But I am happy they did manage to evolve into the two girls bonding with each other, like them comparing the monsters they have seen with the Doctor, and ending it with a laugh at how he talks to the TARDIS. It's actually really likeable and really funny. But that's then spoiled at the ending where Rose just doesn't seem happy to have Mickey Smith join their adventures. I do kind of wish Rose was a little bit more appreciated with Mickey joining them. K9 kicks ass in this story. I mean, coming off from the classic season as well as a failed spin-off in the past, it was nice to see this funny little robot dog actually kick ass with a laser gun. Having now seen a couple of his adventures in the classic season, it is nice to see how the animatronics on the robot dog have improved since then. Now, I was a little worried that his voice might have been a little annoying for some viewers since comic relief characters were not well received in the early 2000s, but it is great to see this character get such a strong fan following, as well as an Australian spin-off and a possible future spin-off movie, which, is that still happening? But yes, I've gone on long enough. I do love the relationship between the 10th Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith. These two really do carry this episode. Yes, this is the first time these actors have met each other, but you get the feeling that they have known each other for a long time. I love David Tennant's reaction to first meeting her. I can imagine the creative team not telling David Tennant that they were going to bring Elizabeth Sladen to the set, and they were keeping it as a surprise. Look at his reaction, it's like a fanboy meeting one of his heroes, it's just so giddy. I also love how much these two have moved on since their time together, how Sarah Jane has gone on to do her own adventures on Earth as a journalist, taking what she has learned from the Doctor and becoming her own person. I cannot believe how much I fell in love with Sarah Jane Smith in this episode, so much that when they announced the spin-off The Sarah Jane Adventures in 2007, I immediately got excited to see it. And those of you who want to know my opinions on that spin-off, you can check out my attic reviews marathon on this channel. In fact, you might even see fingerprints and seeds of the spin-off in this episode. The setting is a school, aliens are on Earth, and kids are saving the day. It's right there! Clues are all there! School Reunion, I think, was a fun episode mixed with a nice return of old characters from the past. I will admit I did not love it as much as everyone else at the time. The film composition is a little standard to watch since the majority of it is filmed in a school. There are a few ugly special effects, and yeah, I'm not a fan of Rose becoming a spoiled brat from this point onwards. I do feel like that was the main reason I did not love it. But I do actually appreciate it for being there. I did like the reveal of Sarah Jane finding the TARDIS. That was a great scene. But it is really the character interaction that does sell this story. Honestly, if we did not have this story, we wouldn't have had the Sarah Jane Adventures, which I still love watching today. Here's to you, Elizabeth Sladen. You were our Sarah Jane.